Chapter 1. The Promotion. Jonas Hamilton stood on the balcony of his downtown loft, watching the city lights flicker against the autumn darkness. At 34, he'd just been named lead urban designer for the Riverside Revitalization Project, the most ambitious development plan the city had seen in decades. It was everything he'd worked toward since graduating top of his class from architectural school 12 years ago. Behind him, his loft buzzed with celebration. Colleagues, clients, and associates filled the space, their laughter and congratulations echoing off the exposed brick walls. Jonas had designed this loft himself 5 years ago, right after he married Cassie Norris. Back then, everything felt possible. Back then, he believed in the woman who smiled at him from across rooms, who held his hand during the endless nights he spent perfecting his designs. There's the man of the hour. Randall Roth appeared beside him, handing Jonas a whiskey. Randall had been Jonas's closest friend since college, now a successful attorney with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "You've been hiding out here for 10 minutes. Your own party, Jonas." "Just taking it in," Jonas replied, accepting the drink. His eyes tracked across the room until they found Cassie. His wife stood near the bar, her blonde hair swept up elegantly, wearing the black dress he'd bought her last month. She was beautiful, always had been. But lately, when she smiled at him, it never reached her eyes. Randall followed his gaze. "How's married life?" Jonas took a slow sip before answering. "Perfect," he said, the word tasting like ash. Absolutely perfect. What Randall didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Jonas had discovered the truth 3 months ago. It started simply enough. Cassie had left her laptop open, and Jonas saw an email from her sister Lucinda. He suspects nothing. "Seth says once you have the designs, we split the $2 million 3 ways. Finally, we can stop pretending." Jonas remembered that moment with crystalline clarity. He'd stood frozen in his home office, the words burning into his brain. He'd wanted to confront her immediately, to rage and demand answers. But something stopped him. Perhaps it was the years he'd spent studying human behavior through architectural psychology, understanding how people moved through spaces, what motivated them, what they hid. Or perhaps it was the cold realization that the woman he loved had never truly existed. So Jonas did what he did best. He planned. "Come on," Randall urged, pulling Jonas back toward the party. "Mike West from the city council wants to congratulate you personally." As they moved through the crowd, Jonas caught sight of Lucinda Norris entering the loft. Cassie's younger sister was 28, with the same blonde hair but sharper features, like someone had drawn Cassie with harder edges. She'd always made Jonas uncomfortable, the way she watched him like a predator sizing up prey. Jonas had learned more about Lucinda in the past 3 months than he'd discovered in 5 years of family dinners. The sealed juvenile record he'd unearthed through private channels. The suspicious accident 3 years ago where a pedestrian died in a hit-and-run, and Lucinda suddenly left town for 6 months. The way she manipulated everyone around her, especially her older sister. "Jonas." Cassie glided over, her smile perfect and empty. She kissed his cheek, and he smelled the wine on her breath. "Everyone's asking for you." "Just catching up with Randall," Jonas said smoothly. He'd become excellent at playing his part. The loving husband. The trusting fool. Cassie's eyes flicked to Lucinda, a quick exchange Jonas had learned to recognize. His wife touched his arm. "I'm so proud of you, darling. This project is going to change everything." Yes, Jonas thought. It will. Just not the way you think. The Riverside Revitalization Project was worth hundreds of millions. The designs were revolutionary. Mixed-use spaces that would transform the city's waterfront. Seth Hughes, a rival developer who'd lost the bid, would pay handsomely for those plans. He could undercut the city, take the designs to another location, or sell them to competitors. Jonas had worked out the math. $2 million was a bargain for what Seth would gain. And Cassie thought Jonas kept the only copies of his designs in his home closet. "Excuse me," Lucinda said, appearing at Cassie's elbow. She leaned close, whispering something Jonas couldn't hear. But he saw Cassie's micro-expression, a flash of excitement before she controlled her features. "Would you excuse me a moment?" Cassie asked, already moving away. "Sister emergency." Jonas nodded, watching them retreat to a corner. He could read their body language from across the room. Lucinda was anxious, eager. Cassie was calculating, cautious. They were finalizing their plan. "You okay?" Randall asked quietly. "You seem distracted." Jonas turned to his friend with a smile that didn't waver. I'm great, Randy. Better than I've been in months. And he was. Because tonight, the game would truly begin. Chapter 2. The Whisper. 2 hours into the party, Jonas stood surrounded by city officials and investors, discussing the project's impact on local businesses. He nodded at appropriate moments, answered questions with the polished confidence they expected, but part of his mind tracked Cassie and Lucinda's movements like a hunter following prey. The commercial spaces will integrate seamlessly with residential units, Jonas explained to Victoria Knox, the city's planning commissioner. We're not just building structures, we're creating a community ecosystem. Brilliant, Victoria enthused. This is exactly the forward-thinking vision we needed. Across the room, Jonas saw Cassie touch Lucinda's wrist. The gesture looked casual, sisterly, but Jonas recognized it as a signal. They moved through the crowd, heading toward the hallway that led to the private areas of the loft. Jonas excused himself smoothly. Please, everyone, enjoy the food and drinks. I need to check on something in my office. He didn't go to his office. Instead, he slipped into the guest bedroom that shared a wall with his walk-in closet. He'd installed a discreet camera system months ago. Nothing visible, nothing obvious. The feed went directly to his phone. On the screen, he watched Cassie and Lucinda enter the master bedroom. His wife looked around nervously while Lucinda moved with predatory confidence to the closet door. While everyone's celebrating, Cassie whispered. Her voice picked up clearly by the audio. Go check his closet and take what we discussed. Jonas felt a cold satisfaction. There it was, the confession he needed, recorded and time-stamped. Lucinda nodded, her eyes gleaming. Finally, Seth's been on my ass about the timeline. 2 million, Cassie. Can you believe it? We'll never have to deal with your boring husband again. Just get the designs, Cassie hissed, glancing toward the door. The architectural plans for Riverside. Blue portfolios, labeled by district. There should be 6 of them. What if someone notices I'm gone? I'll cover. But hurry. We can't risk. Risk what? Jonas stepped into the bedroom doorway, his voice cutting through their conspiracy like a blade. Both women froze. Cassie's face went white, then flushed red. Jonas, we were just discussing how you're going to steal my work and sell it to Seth Hughes for $2 million. Jonas kept his voice conversational, almost pleasant. That's what you were discussing, wasn't it? Lucinda recovered first, her expression shifting to fake concern. Jonas, what are you talking about? We were looking for Cassie's necklace. She thought she left it in here. Jonas smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Really? That's interesting, because I just heard Cassie tell you to take what we discussed from my closet. Specifically, the blue portfolios with the Riverside designs. The silence stretched like a living thing. Cassie's hands trembled. You're being paranoid. The stress of the promotion. Stop. Jonas's voice dropped to a register that made both women step back. I know about Seth. I know about the plan. I've known for 3 months. That's impossible, Lucinda breathed. Is it? Jonas pulled out his phone, playing back their conversation from moments ago. Their voices echoed in the bedroom, crystal clear. 2 million, Cassie. Can you believe it? Cassie's legs seemed to give out. She sat heavily on the bed. Jonas, please, let me explain. Oh, you'll explain. But first, let's see what's actually in that closet, shall we? Jonas walked past them, opened the closet door, and pulled down a locked metal box from the top shelf. He'd placed it there this morning, knowing this moment would come. He set it on the bed between them. The lock was a simple combination. He opened it with steady hands. Inside were photographs, documents, evidence. Lucinda reached for the contents, her curiosity overcoming her fear. She pulled out the first photo, and her face went gray. No. It was a photograph of a car. Her car. From 3 years ago. The front end damaged, a timestamp showing it was taken hours after the hit and run that killed a 32-year-old teacher named Martin Gray. Where did you get this? Lucinda's voice cracked. Keep looking, Jonas said coldly. Cassie grabbed the next folder. Inside were medical records, police reports, and insurance documents related to her first husband, Robert Caldwell, who died 4 years ago from what was ruled an accidental overdose. But underneath those documents was a toxicology report that never made it into the official file, one showing the presence of a drug that Robert never used, administered in doses that suggested intentional poisoning. Oh God, Cassie whispered. Robert, you know about Robert? I know everything. Jonas's voice was ice. I know that Seth Hughes isn't just a business rival. I know he's been your lover for the past 2 years, Cassie. I know that you and Lucinda have been planning this since before I even won the Riverside bid. I know that you married me because you thought I was an easy mark, a kind, trusting architect who'd be too busy with his designs to notice his wife plotting to destroy him. Lucinda's hands shook as she continued pulling out documents. There were bank statements showing suspicious transfers, emails between Cassie and Seth detailing their affair, phone records, surveillance photos. The evidence was overwhelming, methodically organized, damning. The hit and run could get you 15 to 20 years, Lucinda, Jonas continued. And Cassie, killing your first husband? That's murder. First degree. Life in prison. You can't prove any of this, Lucinda spat, but her voice wavered. Jonas pulled out his phone again. Actually, I have a detective from the state police on speed dial. Miles Everett. Good man. Very interested in cold cases. I've been consulting with him for months, helping him build an airtight case against both of you. Cassie looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. Why? Why did you wait? If you knew all this, why didn't you just turn us in? Jonas crouched down to meet her eyes. Because I needed you to show me who you really were. I needed the proof of your betrayal, recorded and undeniable. And I needed you to understand something very important. He stood, looking down at both women. You thought I was weak. You thought I was stupid. You thought you could destroy my life, steal my work, and walk away rich and free. His smile was terrible. You were wrong. From the party outside, laughter and music continued, oblivious to the drama unfolding in the bedroom. Here's what's going to happen, Jonas said. You're going to go back to that party. You're going to smile and pretend everything is fine. And tomorrow morning, you're both going to discover that the designs you were planning to steal, they're worthless. Fake. I created an entire set of decoy plans just for you. Lucinda's eyes widened. You knew we'd try tonight? I've known your entire plan from the beginning. I fed you false information through careless conversations. I made sure you thought the plans were in this closet. I even made sure Seth Hughes would be interested enough to offer you money. Jonas's voice was soft, deadly. I've been playing you both like instruments for 3 months. What do you want? Cassie asked desperately. Money? We'll disappear. You'll never see us again. Jonas shook his head. What I want is justice. And I'm going to get it. Chapter 3. The Horrifying Truth. Lucinda lurched to her feet, her face twisted with rage and panic. You son of a bitch. You think you're so smart? You think you can threaten us? I'm not threatening you, Lucinda. I'm telling you what's already in motion. Jonas's calm was more frightening than any anger. The question is whether you go down alone, or if you take each other with you. What does that mean? Cassie's voice was barely a whisper. Jonas pulled out a chair and sat, as if they were having a casual conversation instead of a confrontation that would destroy lives. It means I know things about each of you that the other doesn't know. Lucinda, does Cassie know about the other accident? The one in Millbrook, 2 years before Martin Gray. Lucinda went very still. There was a 16-year-old girl, Melissa Branch. She survived, but she's in a wheelchair for life. You left her in a ditch. Jonas's words fell like hammer blows. Cassie, did you know your sister is a serial hit-and-run driver? Or did you think it was just the one time? Cassie turned to her sister, horror and betrayal mixing on her face. Lucinda? A 16-year-old girl? Shut up, Jonas! Lucinda screamed. You don't know anything. And Lucinda, Jonas continued, did you know that Cassie didn't just kill Robert for his insurance money? She killed him because he found out about her affair with Seth Hughes. Robert was going to divorce her, and she would have gotten nothing. So she poisoned him slowly over 3 months, making it look like depression and substance abuse. Lucinda stared at her sister. You told me it was an accident. You said he overdosed on his own. Cassie's face crumbled. He was going to leave me with nothing. I built that life. You deserved prison, Jonas cut in. Both of you do. And that's exactly where you're heading. The door opened suddenly. Randall Roth stood there, and behind him, a tall man in a dark suit, Detective Miles Everett, whose expression was grim and professional. Mr. Hamilton, the detective said quietly, I believe we've heard enough. Cassie's scream was raw. You recorded this? You had them listening. Every word, Jonas confirmed. The bedroom is wired. So is the closet. Everything you've said tonight is documented. And Detective Everett, this is my attorney, Randall Roth. He'll confirm that all evidence was obtained legally, as part of an ongoing investigation into my wife's suspicious behavior. Miles Everett stepped forward, badge in hand. Lucinda Norris, Cassie Norris Hamilton, you're under arrest. Lucinda, for 2 counts of vehicular manslaughter and fleeing the scene of an accident. Cassie, for the murder of Robert Caldwell and conspiracy to commit fraud and theft. You can't do this. Lucinda lunged toward Jonas, but Randall intercepted her smoothly. I'd advise you both to remain calm, Randall said, his lawyer voice crisp and authoritative. Anything you say can and will be used against you. As Detective Everett read them their rights, Cassie looked at Jonas with something like understanding. You're a monster, she said softly. I thought I was marrying someone kind, someone I could control. Jonas stood, looking down at the woman he'd once loved, or thought he loved. You're right. You did marry someone kind, and you tried to destroy him. What you're seeing now isn't a monster, Cassie. It's just what happens when a kind man realizes he's been treating vipers like pets. How long, she asked. How long have you been planning this? From the moment I saw that first email. Every conversation we've had since then, I was playing a role. Every tender moment, every time I told you I loved you, I was gathering evidence, Cassie, building the case that would put you away forever. 2 uniformed officers appeared in the doorway. As they led Cassie and Lucinda away in handcuffs, Lucinda spat over her shoulder. This isn't over, Jonas. Seth won't let this stand. You have no idea who you're messing with. Jonas smiled. Give Seth my regards. Tell him I look forward to our conversation tomorrow. When the bedroom was empty except for Jonas, Randall, and Detective Everett, the detective let out a long breath. That was intense, Mr. Hamilton. You sure you're all right? I'm fine, Detective. Better than I've been in months. Jonas looked at the scattered evidence on the bed. Everything you need is here. The original files are with Randall, properly documented and chain of custody maintained. Miles Everett began collecting the evidence. The DA is going to love this case. It's airtight. Randall put a hand on Jonas's shoulder. How are you really doing? Jonas walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. From here, he could see where the Riverside project would transform the waterfront. His project, his designs, his victory. I married her because she seemed perfect, Jonas said quietly. Beautiful, charming, interested in my work. I thought I'd found someone who understood me, but she was just good at pretending. They both were. You did the right thing, Randall assured him. Did I? Jonas turned. I spent 3 months lying to my wife, knowing she was lying to me. I became someone else, Randy. Someone cold enough to smile at dinner while planning her arrest. You became someone strong enough to protect yourself, Randall corrected. There's a difference. Detective Everett finished packing the evidence. Mr. Hamilton, you should know, we've been building a case against Seth Hughes too. Your cooperation has been invaluable. Once we finish with these 2, we're going after him for conspiracy and attempted corporate espionage. Good, Jonas said. He deserves it. As they all walked back toward the party, Jonas could hear the celebration continuing, his colleagues unaware of the drama that had just unfolded. Victoria Knox was laughing with some investors. Mike West was examining the architectural models Jonas had displayed. What are you going to tell everyone? Randall asked. Jonas straightened his jacket, composed his expression. Nothing tonight. Let them celebrate. Tomorrow, I'll say Cassie and I are separating. Private matter. Most people will understand. And the truth. The truth, Jonas said, is that I trusted the wrong person. But I won't make that mistake again. He stepped back into the party, and immediately several people swarmed him with congratulations and questions. Jonas smiled, shook hands, discussed the project with genuine enthusiasm. This was his night, his achievement. He wouldn't let Cassie's betrayal steal that from him. But as the night wore on, Jonas couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite finished. Lucinda's words echoed in his mind. Seth won't let this stand. Seth Hughes was dangerous in ways Cassie and Lucinda weren't. He had money, connections, and a reputation for ruthlessness. Jonas had played his hand, but the game wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Chapter 4, The Investigation. 3 months earlier, Jonas had been working late in his home office when he decided to order dinner. Cassie had texted saying she was out with Lucinda, wouldn't be home until late. Nothing unusual, except that she'd left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. Jonas never would have snooped. Not before, but something had been nagging at him for weeks. The way Cassie had become distant, distracted. The whispered phone calls. The sudden interest in his work schedule. The laptop screen was dark, but not locked. He touched the trackpad, and it illuminated, showing an open email chain. From Lucinda Norris to Cassie Hamilton. Subject: the plan. He suspects nothing. Seth says once you have the designs, we split the $2 million 3 ways. Finally, we can stop pretending. I'm so sick of watching you play housewife to that boring architect. After this, we're set for life. Jonas had read it 3 times, his world cracking apart with each pass. Then he'd scrolled through the entire email chain, watching months of conspiracy unfold before his eyes. But Jonas wasn't like most people. His success as an architect came from his ability to see patterns, to understand how systems worked, how people moved through spaces. He applied that same logic to human behavior. He closed the laptop carefully, exactly as he'd found it. Then he went to his office and began to plan. The first call was to Randall Roth. They'd been friends since college, and Randall had become a top attorney specializing in both criminal defense and family law. Randy, I need your help, and I need you to keep this confidential. Over drinks that night, Jonas laid out everything he'd discovered. Randall listened carefully, his expression growing darker as Jonas spoke. You're sure about this? Randall asked. I saw the emails. They're planning to steal the Riverside designs and sell them to Seth Hughes. Seth Hughes. Randall's jaw tightened. That bastard has been trying to undermine you for years. He lost the Riverside bid, and he's bitter about it. That's why he's perfect for them, Jonas said. He has money and motivation. Randall swirled his whiskey. What do you want to do? Divorce her now? Secure your assets? No. Jonas's voice was firm. I want to know everything. Why she married me. What else she's done. And I want evidence that will destroy her and anyone helping her. That's a dangerous game, Jonas. If she suspects you know. She won't. I'm good at hiding my thoughts, Randy. It's how I survive difficult clients and political meetings. I can play the oblivious husband. And he had. For 3 months, Jonas lived a double life. During the day, he was the loving husband, the dedicated architect. At night, he became an investigator. He hired a private detective, a retired cop named Jeremy Friedman who specialized in discreet inquiries. Jeremy had dug deep, finding things Jonas never imagined. Your sister-in-law's got a record, Jeremy reported 2 weeks into the investigation. Sealed juvenile files, but I got a contact who owed me a favor. Reckless driving, DUI, assault. The family money kept her out of serious trouble. What about the accident 3 years ago? Jeremy handed over a file. Martin Gray, teacher, killed in a hit-and-run. Witnesses saw a car matching Lucinda's fleeing the scene. Police investigated but couldn't prove it. She left town for 6 months, came back with a new car and a clean record. Jonas had felt sick reading it. She killed someone and got away with it. And there's another one. 2 years earlier, different town. Melissa Branch, 16, left paralyzed. Also unsolved. But I tracked down Lucinda's whereabouts, and she was in Millbrook the night it happened. The investigation into Cassie had been even more disturbing. Jonas discovered that Robert Caldwell, her first husband, had died under suspicious circumstances. The official report said accidental overdose, but Jonas had Jeremy pull Robert's medical records. He was being treated for anxiety and mild depression, Jeremy explained. But the toxicology at death showed levels of sedatives way beyond what was prescribed, plus traces of other drugs that don't appear in any of his medical history. Could it have been suicide? The coroner thought so, but one of the EMTs who responded filed a report that got buried. He said Robert's symptoms looked like chronic poisoning, not an overdose. The guy was a former military medic. He knew what he was seeing. Jonas had stared at the photos of Robert Caldwell, a kind-looking man in his 40s, smiling in pictures with Cassie. She killed him. Can't prove it without exhuming the body and running new tests. But yeah, I think she did. That's when Jonas contacted Detective Miles Everett. Miles was investigating cold cases for the state police and jumped at the chance to potentially solve 2 hit-and-runs and a suspicious death. This is good work, Miles said, reviewing the evidence Jonas and Jeremy had compiled. But we need more. We need current crimes, something that proves intent and conspiracy. The plan to steal my designs, Jonas said. That's conspiracy to commit fraud, corporate espionage, theft of intellectual property. Can you prove they're planning it? Jonas smiled grimly. Not yet, but I will. That's when he began creating the trap. The fake designs, carefully crafted to look legitimate, but subtly flawed. He started talking carelessly about where he kept the real plans, making sure Cassie overheard. He discussed his promotion party as if it would be the perfect distraction. You're playing a dangerous game, Miles warned. If they suspect you're onto them, they won't. I've been careful. And he had been. Jonas became an actor in his own life, playing the role of the trusting husband while building an elaborate trap. He installed cameras and recording devices in his home, all legally documented for the investigation. He created paper trails, documented every suspicious behavior, every whispered conversation. He also investigated Seth Hughes, discovering that the developer had his own secrets. Fraud, bribery, connections to organized crime. Seth was exactly the kind of partner Cassie and Lucinda would choose, ruthless and without scruples. Jonas began creating dossiers on everyone involved. He mapped their relationships, their communications, their weaknesses. It was like designing a building. Every element had to support the next, creating a structure that was simultaneously beautiful and terrifying in its completeness. The hardest part was pretending nothing had changed with Cassie, making love to her while knowing she was planning to betray him, telling her he loved her when those words had become weapons instead of promises. Sometimes, late at night, Jonas wondered if this obsessive planning made him as bad as them. But then he'd remember Robert Caldwell's kind face, Martin Gray's widow and children, Melissa Branch in her wheelchair. These were real people Cassie and Lucinda had destroyed without remorse. Jonas wasn't a monster. He was just someone who refused to be a victim. Chapter 5. The Serpent's Den. The morning after the party, Jonas woke alone in his loft. Cassie and Lucinda were in custody, and the apartment felt both empty and cleansed. He made coffee, showered, and dressed in a charcoal suit. He had a meeting at 10, and he refused to let their drama derail his work. His phone rang. Seth Hughes. Jonas let it go to voicemail, smiling as he listened to the message. Hamilton, we need to talk. Call me. Now. Instead, Jonas called Detective Everett. Seth just reached out. Perfect. Are you ready for phase 2? Absolutely. They'd planned this carefully. The arrest of Cassie and Lucinda would panic Seth, making him sloppy. Jonas just needed to push the right buttons. He arrived at his office at Vanguard Design Studios to find the place buzzing. His assistant, Willa Reynolds, looked concerned. Mr. Hamilton, there are rumors about your wife. Personal matter, Willa. Nothing to worry about. Jonas's smile was practiced, professional. Can you get me the Henderson files? I want to review them before our 3 o'clock. Work was his refuge. Jonas lost himself in designs, in the mathematics of spaces, and the art of creating functional beauty. The Riverside project would change the city, provide housing and businesses, transform the waterfront into something meaningful. At noon, Randall arrived. You're all over the news. Prominent architect's wife arrested for murder. The media's having a field day. Let them. Jonas didn't look up from his sketches. Is everything proceeding? Arraignment's tomorrow. The DA is pushing for no bail. With the evidence you provided, they're confident about convictions. Good. And Seth? Randall's smile was sharp. He's been calling my office all morning, demanding to know what you're planning. Tell him I'm available for lunch. Russo's 1 o'clock. Jonas, are you sure? Seth is dangerous. That's why I need you and Detective Everett there. Separate tables, close enough to intervene if needed. At 1, Jonas walked into Russo's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. Seth Hughes sat in a corner booth, his expression thunderous. At 42, Seth was handsome in a predatory way, styled hair, expensive suit, cold eyes that calculated everyone's worth. Hamilton. Seth didn't rise or offer his hand. Sit. Jonas slid into the booth calmly, ordering a mineral water from the hovering waiter. You wanted to talk, Seth. I'm here. You destroyed my plan. Your plan to steal my designs and defraud the city? Yes, I did. Seth leaned forward, voice low and dangerous. You have no idea what you've cost me. The money I put down, the promises I made. There are people who don't take kindly to failed investments. Sounds like a personal problem. It's about to become yours. Seth's smile was vicious. I've dealt with problems before, Jonas. I know how to make them disappear. Jonas pulled out his phone, setting it on the table between them. Interesting. Can you repeat that? I want to make sure Detective Everett hears it clearly. Seth's face went white. You're recording this? Of course. Just like I recorded every conversation Cassie and Lucinda had in my home. Just like I documented every aspect of your conspiracy to commit corporate espionage and fraud. You have nothing on me. I never touched those plans. No, but you offered $2 million for them. You entered into a conspiracy to commit theft. You solicited criminal activity. Jonas's voice was pleasant, conversational. And that's just the beginning. I've been investigating you, Seth. Want to know what I found? Seth's hands clenched on the table. The Marquette Project. You bribed 3 city councilors to secure that contract. I have the records, offshore accounts, wire transfers, the whole thing. Jonas leaned back. The Riverdale apartments that collapsed last year, injuring 15 people. You used substandard materials to save money. I have the invoices and testimony from your contractors who were afraid to speak up before. You're bluffing. Am I? Jonas slid a folder across the table. Take a look. Seth opened it with shaking hands. Inside were documents, photos, bank statements, everything Jonas described and more. How? Seth breathed. I'm very good at research, Seth. It's what makes me a successful architect. I study systems, find the weaknesses, understand how things work. Jonas's smile was cold. You've built your empire on corruption and intimidation. I'm going to tear it down piece by piece. Seth's face transformed from shock to rage. You self-righteous son of a bitch. You think you're better than me? You're just a pathetic cuckold whose wife tried to rob him blind. Maybe, but I'm a pathetic cuckold who's about to put you in prison. Seth lunged across the table, and chaos erupted. Detective Everett appeared instantly, badge out, commanding Seth to stand down. Randall grabbed Jonas, pulling him back. 2 uniformed officers materialized from nowhere. Seth Hughes, Detective Everett announced loudly. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, bribery, and intimidation of a witness. This is entrapment. Seth roared as officers restrained him. Actually, it's just good police work, Miles said, reading Seth's rights. And Mr. Hamilton's recording of your threats will make an excellent addition to our case. As they led Seth away in handcuffs, Jonas remained seated, heart pounding but exterior calm. Randall slid into the booth. That was reckless, Jonas. That was necessary. Seth needed to show his true colors. He threatened you. He could have done worse than lunge across a table. That's why you and Detective Everett were here. Jonas sipped his water. Seth is sloppy when he's angry. I needed him to make mistakes. Randall studied his friend carefully. You're different. Since all this started, you've become someone else. I became who I needed to be to survive. But at what cost? Jonas, you're playing games with dangerous people. Cassie, Lucinda, Seth, these aren't ordinary criminals. They're desperate and connected. Jonas met his friend's eyes. I know, but I can't stop now. Not when I'm so close to ending this. Ending what? They're all in custody. You won. Have I? Jonas's voice dropped. Lucinda mentioned Seth had powerful friends. What if this is bigger than I thought? What if there are others involved? Jonas, you need to let the police handle it from here. But Jonas was already thinking ahead, already seeing the patterns. Seth had been too confident, even when cornered. Like he knew something Jonas didn't. That evening, Jonas returned to his loft to find it ransacked. Furniture overturned, drawers emptied, his office destroyed. Spray painted on the wall in red. Back off or disappear. He called Detective Everett immediately. Someone broke in. They trashed the place. Don't touch anything. I'm on my way. As Jonas surveyed the damage, he noticed something strange. The destruction was thorough but specific. They'd targeted his files, his computer equipment, anything related to his investigations. But they'd left the architectural models untouched, the expensive art on the walls unharmed. This wasn't random vandalism. This was a message. Miles Everett arrived with a forensics team. This is professional work. They knew what they were looking for. Seth's associates? Jonas asked. Maybe. Or someone else we haven't identified yet. Miles examined the spray-painted threat. You need to take this seriously, Jonas. These people don't make empty threats. I'm not backing off. Then at least let us provide protection. I can have officers watching your apartment. Jonas agreed, but his mind was already working. Who else was involved? What had he missed? The answer came at midnight. His phone rang, an unknown number. Mr. Hamilton? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. You don't know me, but I work for Seth Hughes. My name is Janice Haynes, and I need to meet with you. Tonight. It's about your wife and her sister. There's more going on than you realize. Who are you? Seth's former accountant. I helped him set up the deal with your wife. But I didn't know. Her voice cracked. I didn't know about the murders. About what they'd done. And now they're threatening my family. Jonas made a split-second decision. Where do you want to meet? The parking garage on 5th and Main. Level 3. 1 hour. Come alone. No, Miles said when Jonas told him. Absolutely not. It's obviously a trap. Or it's a break in the case. This Janice Haynes might have information we need. Then we'll bring her in for questioning. She's scared, Miles. If we come at her officially, she'll disappear. I need to meet her, earn her trust. They compromised. Jonas would go to the meeting, but undercover officers would be positioned throughout the garage. He'd wear a wire, and at the first sign of trouble, the police would intervene. At 1 a.m., Jonas drove to the garage, his pulse racing. He parked on level 3 as instructed and waited. A figure emerged from the shadows. A woman in her 30s, dark hair, terrified eyes. She approached Jonas's car cautiously. Ms. Haynes. Jonas lowered his window. Get out. We need to talk where I can see you're not recording. Jonas complied, though the wire under his shirt was state-of-the-art and invisible. Janice looked around nervously. Seth is just the front. There's a whole network, developers, politicians, criminals. Your wife and her sister got involved with something much bigger than a $2 million payout. Explain. Seth was going to use your designs not just to undercut the Riverside project, but to launder money through a construction scheme. Millions of dollars from illegal operations, funneled through legitimate development. Your wife was the perfect mark, married to the architect, access to everything. Jonas felt cold. Who else is involved? I don't know all the names. But I have files, records. I copied everything before I quit. I was going to disappear, but then I saw the news about the arrests, and I realized they're going to come after me. And they're definitely coming after you. Why tell me this? Janice's eyes filled with tears. Because people have died, Mr. Hamilton. Real people. And I can't live with being part of it anymore. She handed him a USB drive. Everything's on here. Bank records, communications, names. Give it to the police. But be careful. Some of the people involved are law enforcement. Which ones? I don't know. That's why Seth was so confident even when you arrested him. He has protection. She backed away. This is all I can do. I'm leaving the state tonight. Don't try to find me. Wait. But she was already running, disappearing into the garage's shadows. Moments later, Jonas heard a car start and speed away. Detective Everett appeared from behind a pillar. Did you get the drive? Jonas held it up. She said some police are involved. That Seth has protection. Miles's face darkened. Then we need to be very careful about who we trust. Come on, we'll go to the FBI. This is bigger than city police can handle. As they walked to Miles's car, Jonas looked at the USB drive in his hand. What had started as a simple betrayal had metastasized into something far more dangerous. And somewhere in the city, people who'd killed before were planning their next move. Chapter 6. The Network. The FBI field office was a stark building of glass and concrete. Special Agent Ariel Thomas met them in a secure conference room at 3 in the morning, her expression professional despite the hour. Detective Everett filled me in on the basic situation, Agent Thomas said. You have evidence of a corruption network. Jonas handed over the USB drive. According to a witness, Seth Hughes is connected to something much larger. Money laundering through construction projects, with protection from compromised law enforcement. Agent Thomas plugged the drive into an isolated computer. As files populated the screen, her expression grew darker. This is extensive. Bank accounts in 3 countries, wire transfers totaling over $50 million, communication logs with. She paused, face paling. With federal judges, city officials, and yes, several law enforcement officers. Can you identify them? Miles asked. Not immediately. These are mostly coded communications. But with time and resources, yes. She looked at Jonas. Mr. Hamilton, you've stumbled into something very dangerous. This network has been operating for at least a decade, possibly longer. My wife and her sister, were they really just pawns? Probably. Hughes likely recruited them for their access to you, not understanding they had their own criminal histories. Agent Thomas began copying files. This is going to take weeks to unravel. In the meantime, you need protection. I have police watching my apartment. Not enough. If there are compromised officers, they might be watching you for the network, not protecting you. She made a phone call, speaking in clipped professional tones. When she hung up, she said, "We're putting you in protective custody while we investigate. I have a business to run projects. And you'll have time for none of that if you're dead, Mr. Hamilton." Her tone brooked no argument. "Detective Everett, you'll need to be careful too. Anyone associated with this investigation could be a target." The next 48 hours were surreal. Jonas was moved to a safe house in the suburbs, cut off from his normal life. FBI agents came and went, asking questions, reviewing evidence. He learned more about the network's scope, how they'd been running construction scams for years, using legitimate projects to hide illegal money while building shoddy structures that sometimes collapsed, injuring or killing people. The Riverdale apartments weren't an accident, Agent Thomas explained. Hughes knew those buildings were unsafe. He just didn't care, because the profit margins were too good. Jonas felt sick. How many people were hurt? 15 injured at Riverdale. 3 other projects with similar issues. 1 death from a balcony collapse. 2 from a gas leak in poorly installed systems. She showed him photos, victims, families destroyed. "This is what your investigation has exposed." Cassie and Lucinda, did they know about all this? "We don't think so. They were useful idiots, recruited for a specific purpose. But they're still guilty of their own crimes." On the 3rd day, Agent Thomas brought news. "We've identified 3 compromised police officers and 1 federal agent. They've been arrested. Seth Hughes is facing federal charges now, along with 17 other members of the network." "Is it over?" Jonas asked. "Not yet. There are still outstanding members, including the network's leadership. We believe there's someone above Hughes, someone we haven't identified." That night, Jonas couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Robert Caldwell, Martin Gray, Melissa Branch. People whose lives had been destroyed by the people Jonas had trusted. He thought about the 15 people injured at Riverdale, and the others hurt by the network's greed. His phone rang, a number he recognized. "Cassie, calling from jail." "Don't hang up," she said quickly. "Please, I need to tell you something. Make it fast. Lucinda and we're cooperating with the FBI, telling them everything we know about Seth and his associates." Her voice was hollow, defeated. "I know you won't forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know, I'm sorry. For everything. Are you sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught?" A long pause. "Both. Honestly, I thought I was being smart, but I was just being cruel. And now Robert's family wants his body exhumed. They're going to prove I killed him." "Good. Jonas, you murdered your first husband. You tried to destroy me. You aligned yourself with people who've hurt dozens of innocent people. I don't care if you're sorry, Cassie. I care that you face justice." He hung up, blocking the number. But her call had given him an idea. If Cassie and Lucinda were cooperating, they might know who led the network. He called Agent Thomas. "Can you question them about the network's leadership? They might know more than they realize." Agent Thomas was quiet for a moment. "That's actually brilliant. They were close to Hughes. He might have let things slip." 2 days later, the breakthrough came. Lucinda, desperate to reduce her sentence, remembered a conversation she'd overheard between Seth and another man. Seth called him the architect, Lucinda told investigators. "I thought it was ironic, since he was stealing from Jonas. But this guy was the one who designed the whole money laundering scheme." Seth was afraid of him. The FBI's investigation intensified. They tracked phone records, financial transactions, meetings. And finally, they found him, Erwin Walter, a city planning commissioner who'd been overseeing development projects for 20 years. He'd been approving every corrupt scheme, accepting bribes, and orchestrating the entire network from his position of authority. "He's been hiding in plain sight," Agent Thomas explained to Jonas. "Respected official, family man, community leader, all while running a criminal empire." Erwin Walter's arrest made national news. Jonas watched the footage of the man being led away in handcuffs, gray-haired, distinguished-looking, completely unrepentant. With Walter's arrest, the network collapsed. More arrests followed, contractors, officials, lawyers. The investigation revealed decades of corruption that had cost lives and millions of dollars. Jonas's role in exposing the network made him briefly famous. He declined interviews, preferring to let his work speak for itself. Chapter 7. Confrontation. 6 weeks after his promotion party, Jonas finally returned to his loft. It had been professionally cleaned and restored, but he still felt the violation of the break-in. Some things couldn't be erased. He was reviewing designs for Riverside, the real designs this time, when Randall arrived. "You have visitors," his friend said carefully. "Cassie and Lucinda want to meet with you. Their lawyers say they have information you need to hear." "Why would I agree to that?" "Because," Randall said, "they claim there's still a threat to you. One person from the network who's still at large and specifically targeting you." Jonas agreed to meet them at the city jail, in a monitored room with guards present. Seeing Cassie in an orange jumpsuit was jarring. She looked older, harder, the polished beauty replaced by raw exhaustion. Lucinda looked worse, haunted, her eyes constantly darting around as if expecting attack. "Thank you for coming," Cassie said quietly. "Your lawyer said there's a threat." "Talk." Lucinda leaned forward. "Before the FBI got Erwin Walter, he sent someone after you. A cleaner. Someone who makes problems disappear." Jonas's blood ran cold. "Who?" "We don't know his real name. Seth called him Orrin. He's the one who broke into your apartment. That was a warning. Now that Walter's arrested and the network's exposed, Orrin's been hired to tie up loose ends. That includes everyone who cooperated with the investigation. The FBI has me in protective custody. And Orrin's killed federal witnesses before," Cassie interrupted. "He's patient. He'll wait until you let your guard down, and then you'll just disappear. We're telling you this because..." She looked down. "Because we destroyed your life, but we don't want you dead." "Why should I believe you?" "Because Orrin already killed one person." Lucinda's voice shook. "Janice Haynes, the accountant who gave you the USB drive. They found her body 3 days ago. 2 bullets, back of the head, professional hit." Jonas felt the room tilt. "Janice is dead. It was in the news, just not connected to this case yet. But we heard about it through the prison network. Orrin's coming for everyone who exposed the network. That includes you. Agent Thomas confirmed it that evening. Janice Haynes was found murdered. We were keeping it quiet. But yes, it looks like a professional hit. And your wife and sister-in-law are right. There's someone cleaning up loose ends. This Orrin, do you have any leads?" "We're working on it. In the meantime, you stay in protective custody." But Jonas was tired of hiding. "No, I want to draw him out." "That's insane. Listen to me." Jonas's voice was firm. "Orrin is hunting people in the shadows. What if we give him a target he can't resist? Me, appearing to be vulnerable. You want to use yourself as bait?" Agent Thomas shook her head. "I can't authorize that. Then I'll do it unauthorized. I'm going back to my life. Back to work. If Orrin wants me, he'll have to come out in the open." Despite everyone's objections, Jonas did exactly that. He returned to his office, met with clients, worked on the Riverside project. He kept FBI agents close but disguised, and he varied his routines, making himself a visible but difficult target. 2 weeks passed, then a month. Jonas began to wonder if Orrin was even real. On a Tuesday evening, Jonas stayed late at his office, working on a design problem. His secretary had left hours ago. The building was nearly empty. He heard the elevator ding. Footsteps in the hallway. Jonas's hand moved to the panic button Agent Thomas had given him, but he didn't press it yet. He needed to see who was coming. The door opened. A man entered. Average height, forgettable features, completely unremarkable except for his eyes. They were cold, professional, empty of emotion. "Mr. Hamilton," the man said pleasantly. "Working late. Can I help you? I think you know why I'm here." The man, Orrin, presumably, closed the door. "You've caused a lot of problems. Exposed people who prefer to stay hidden. There are consequences for that." Jonas pressed the panic button. "You're not the first person to threaten me. It didn't work out well for them. I'm not Seth Hughes or Erwin Walter. I'm someone who finishes jobs." Orrin pulled out a gun with a silencer attached. "This can be quick, or it can be messy. Your choice." "Neither." Jonas stood, backing toward the window. "I'm guessing the FBI will be here in about 90 seconds. That's how long it takes them to respond to my panic button." Orrin smiled. 90 seconds is more than enough." He raised the gun. The window behind Jonas exploded inward. An FBI sniper's bullet caught Orrin in the shoulder, spinning him around. The gun clattered from his hand. Agents poured through the door, tackling Orrin before he could recover. "Clear," someone shouted. Agent Thomas appeared, checking Jonas over. "You okay?" "Fine." Jonas's hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "Is he?" Wounded but alive. We'll get everything out of him. She looked at Jonas with something like respect. That was incredibly stupid and incredibly brave. It worked, didn't it? Oren was arrested, treated for his wound, and began talking within hours. He provided names, locations, details of other crimes. The network's last remaining members were rounded up systematically. Jonas testified at trial after trial. Cassie and Lucinda were convicted of their respective crimes. Cassie got 25 years for Robert's murder. Lucinda got 18 for the 2 hit-and-runs. Seth Hughes received 40 years for his role in the network and the deaths caused by his construction fraud. Erwin Walter got life without parole. Chapter 8. Justice. The trials took 8 months. Jonas attended every day he could, watching as the people who tried to destroy him faced the consequences of their actions. He testified about the betrayal, the investigation, the conspiracy. He looked Cassie in the eyes as he described finding that first email, and he felt nothing. No anger, no pain. Just a cold satisfaction that justice was being served. The media coverage was intense. Jonas became known as the architect who brought down a criminal empire. He hated the attention but endured it because the story needed to be told. Robert Caldwell's family deserved to see justice for his murder. Martin Gray's widow deserved to know her husband's killer was in prison. Melissa Branch deserved to see the woman who destroyed her life face consequences. During Cassie's sentencing hearing, the judge asked if Jonas wanted to make a statement. He stood, looking at the woman he'd once loved. I married Cassie because I thought she was kind, intelligent, and genuine. I was wrong about every one of those things. She was an actress playing a role, and I was foolish enough to believe the performance. Jonas's voice was steady, clear, but I learned something valuable. I learned that kindness isn't weakness, that trusting someone doesn't make you a fool, betraying that trust makes them a monster. I learned that I'm stronger than I knew, and that sometimes the right thing to do is the hardest thing. He looked directly at Cassie. You tried to destroy me. Instead, you destroyed yourself. And that's not my fault, it's yours. You made choices, and now you face consequences. I hope prison gives you time to understand the pain you've caused. Not just to me, but to Robert, to the Gray family, to everyone hurt by your selfishness. Cassie was crying, but Jonas felt no sympathy. He'd cried for her too, months ago, mourning the woman he thought she was. But that woman had never existed. The judge sentenced Cassie to 25 years. Lucinda got 18. Seth got 40. Erwin Walter got life. Oren, the hitman, received 35 years plus consecutive sentences for Janice Haynes's murder and attempted murder of Jonas. When it was finally over, Jonas walked out of the courthouse with Randall and Detective Miles Everett, who'd become a friend through the ordeal. It's done, Miles said. You can finally put this behind you. Can I? Jonas looked up at the courthouse. I spent months living a double life, playing a role. Becoming someone calculating enough to trap the people who loved me or pretended to love me. Does that ever go away? You did what you had to do to survive and seek justice, Randall said firmly. Don't let this experience make you cynical, Jonas. What you did was remarkable. I set up my wife for arrest. I manipulated her and her sister into revealing their crimes. I used myself as bait for a hitman. What does that make me? Brave, Miles said. And smart. And someone who refused to be a victim. Jonas wanted to believe that. But late at night, he still wondered if he'd lost something essential in the process. Some basic trust in humanity. Some ability to love without fear. Chapter 9. Rebuilding. 18 months after that fateful promotion party, Jonas stood at the Riverside site, watching construction crews break ground on his designs. The project was finally moving forward, and it was everything he'd envisioned. Mixed-use spaces, green areas, community centers. A place where people would live, work, and thrive. It's beautiful, Willa Reynolds said, standing beside him. His assistant had been with him through the whole ordeal, loyal and supportive. You should be proud. I am. This project almost died because of Cassie and Seth's conspiracy. But it survived. It's going to change the city. The wind carried the sounds of construction, hammers, saws, the beeping of heavy machinery. Jonas found it soothing, the sound of creation replacing destruction. His phone buzzed. A text from Miles Everett. Coffee tomorrow? Have some news. Jonas smiled. His friendship with Miles had deepened over the months. They'd both seen the worst of human nature, and that shared experience created a bond. He typed back, sure. Usual place? You know it. Jonas pocketed his phone and turned back to the construction site. Behind him, the city rose up, full of life and possibility. Somewhere in that city, Cassie sat in a prison cell. Lucinda too. Seth, Irwin, Orrin, all of them locked away, paying for their crimes. And Jonas? He was free. Not just physically, but emotionally. The anger and betrayal had faded, replaced by something more profound. The understanding that he'd survived. That he'd been tested and hadn't broken. Mr. Hamilton? A young architect from his firm approached nervously. I had some questions about the community center design. Jonas welcomed the distraction, diving into the technical details of load-bearing walls and traffic flow. This was what he loved, solving problems, creating spaces, making the world better through thoughtful design. That evening, Jonas returned to his loft. It no longer felt violated. He'd reclaimed it, made it his again. He poured a whiskey and stood at the window, looking out at the city lights. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Mr. Hamilton? This is Dr. Esperanza de Leon from City General Hospital. I'm calling about Melissa Branch. Jonas's heart jumped. Melissa, the girl Lucinda had hit 3 years ago, leaving her paralyzed. Is she all right? She's fine. Actually, she heard about your role in bringing Lucinda to justice. She wanted me to call you, to say thank you. She said it gave her closure, knowing the person who destroyed her life finally faced consequences. Can I speak with her? Hold on. A moment later, a young woman's voice came on the line. Mr. Hamilton, this is Melissa. I wanted you to know that what you did mattered. For 3 years, I thought the person who hit me would never be found. And now she's in prison. That won't give me back my legs, but it gives me peace. So thank you. Jonas's throat tightened. Thank you for calling, Melissa. I'm sorry for what happened to you. It wasn't your fault, but you helped fix it anyway. That takes courage. After they hung up, Jonas sat in silence for a long time. This was why it mattered. Not revenge, not even justice in the abstract, but concrete change in real people's lives. Melissa had peace. Robert Caldwell's family had answers. Martin Gray's widow had closure. The next morning, Jonas met Miles at their favorite cafe. The detective looked tired but satisfied. The DA called. Miles said, "Every single one of the network members has been convicted. The last trial ended yesterday. It's officially over." Jonas raised his coffee cup. "To justice. To survivors," Miles corrected, clinking his cup against Jonas's. "You could have been a victim, Jonas. Instead, you became a victor. That's not nothing. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like survival. Sometimes they're the same thing." Miles leaned back. "What's next for you?" "Work. The Riverside project will keep me busy for years. And after that," Jonas shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe travel. Maybe meet someone new. Maybe just live without looking over my shoulder." "You deserve that." As Jonas walked back to his office, he passed a newsstand. The headline caught his eye. Corruption Network Architect Sentenced to Life. Victims Find Peace. He bought a copy, reading the article as he walked. It detailed the network's crimes, the investigation, the trials. And there, near the end, was a quote from him. "Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about ensuring that people who've been hurt get answers, and that those who hurt them can't hurt anyone else." Jonas folded the paper and kept walking. The city moved around him, cars honking, people rushing, life continuing in its chaotic, beautiful way. He was part of that flow now, no longer the man who'd discovered betrayal at his promotion party. He was someone new, someone stronger, someone who'd looked at monsters and refused to become one himself. That evening, Jonas returned to the Riverside site. The sun was setting, painting the construction in gold and shadow. He stood at the edge of the project, imagining how it would look when finished. Families walking through the community areas, businesses thriving in the commercial spaces, lives being lived in the residential towers. This was his legacy, not the investigation, not the trials, not the media coverage, but this, creation instead of destruction, beauty instead of corruption, hope instead of betrayal. Jonas pulled out his phone and took a picture of the construction site at sunset. He sent it to Miles, to Randall, to Willa, the people who'd stood by him when everything fell apart. Then he typed a message to himself, a reminder for dark days. You were betrayed, but you didn't break. You were threatened, but you didn't hide. You were tested, and you passed. Remember this. As he walked back to his car, Jonas felt something he hadn't felt in months. Contentment. Not happiness exactly. Contentment was quieter, deeper. It was the knowledge that he'd done everything right when everything went wrong. Cassie would spend the next 25 years in prison. Lucinda, 18. Seth, 40. Erwin Walter would die behind bars. Orrin would grow old in a cell. And Jonas? Jonas would build. He would create. He would live. He'd won. Not through violence or cruelty, but through patience, intelligence, and an unwavering commitment to justice. That was the victory that mattered. As he drove through the city, Jonas thought about the man he'd been 18 months ago. Naive, trusting, blind to the dangers around him. That man was gone. But so was the cold, calculating investigator who'd trapped his wife. In their place was someone new. Someone who understood that strength wasn't about being hard or untrusting. It was about being resilient enough to survive betrayal without letting it destroy your capacity for goodness. Jonas Hamilton had been tested by fire, and he'd emerged not as ashes, but as something tempered and strong, something unbreakable. The story ended not with violence or revenge, but with the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. Justice served, lives rebuilt, and one man standing at the edge of his creation, ready to build something beautiful where there had once been only corruption and pain. That was the real victory. That was what mattered. And Jonas had earned every bit of it. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.